Ouch.
Hi, welcome to Cafe 229. Today we're very happy and honored to have Sensei Jason Morris. Sensei Morris is one of the best judo players in the United States. He is a 4-time Olympian silver medalist as well as an Olympic judo coach. Along with me is Sensei Michael Goldsmith. Both of us will interview Sensei Morris. Hi, Sensei.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
We're so happy to have you on our webinar, and we hope to have a great conversation with you. The purpose of our conversation is to introduce our audience what judo is and also learn a little bit about what you learned from judo. So can you tell us a little bit about how did you start judo? Maybe what's the story behind it?
My story started here in the town that you're in called Glenville, New York. There was a local YMCA called Parkside Y that I saw I actually got a flyer home from the Y that said, come to judo. And there's a picture of a guy throwing somebody.
Okay.
When I was 8 years old. I had no idea what that was. It looked cool. Huh. My mom took me to the demonstration. Once I saw the demonstration, I was hooked. I saw, like, you would know what Tomonagi is. They did,
sure.
They did all the throws that were very exciting. I was like, wow, this is great. So I joined, and here we are 50 years later, 49 years later.
Wow. 49 years later after you saw that judo poster.
Yep.
Which also means that it's very important for, I guess, in order to promote judo, we should let people know what that is, right? Like what it looks like, what doings looks like.
I think everybody that's, especially senseis, it's their duty to educate the public about what judo is, because it's so fantastic in a million different ways.
Right.
How, a lot of the people watching are not necessarily judokas. How would you describe how judo works?
Judo in general is a grappling art, right? You start standing up, and the two competitors or two practitioners grab the other person's uniform. We wear a thing called a judo gi, which looks like a robe. There's other sports that also do that. So you grab the gi and you try to position your opponent and position yourself so I can attempt to knock you onto your back. And that's how you score. Okay, that's the general gist of it. And then there's a component of our sport that's on the ground, on the mat, we call mat work or groundwork, or newaza, which is the Japanese term,
sure.
Where you try to, like in wrestling, pin your person. But unlike wrestling, there's 2 submissions, arm locks only against the elbow, and chokes. And to get out of those, if it hurts, tap twice.
So judo is a sport that utilize, I guess it's a grappling sport where 2 people will compete in terms of try to either throw someone, choking someone, or armbar someone to win the match.
Or pin them.
Or pin the person. That's correct. That's correct. And I guess I'm curious, when you were learning judo, which aspect of the judo that attracted you the most?
It was the throws.
The throws.
I was a thrower. I learned years later I was a thrower. Later on, you want to just win matches. So if people study you and you're the only one person, like I'm the only one person for the United States for 20 years, well, there's a good book on me around the world. So then I became a lot better on the ground as well.
I see.
I know it exists, but I was a thrower. Like, for example, you wouldn't have seen it today. There's this superstar guy named Moriyama who beat another Olympic champion at first round, a terrible draw at the French Open. And he's a big thrower, this Moriyama, a 66 kilo guy. I love his judo. He arm locked this Basili from Italy just because it was an opportunity, because he wants to win the match, right? So he didn't throw him for the win, he arm locked him for the win. And I'm sure that he doesn't practice that particular move exactly the way it happened. He just took advantage. So I learned how to do that later in my life. So I was a thrower, but whatever I can do to win the match.
But I identify with that because we're both from the same teacher, but I like to throw. He likes to do the groundwork.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, my strategy was just to drag you to the ground any way I possibly could, and either
Okay.
pin you or submit you or choke you. So I always admired people who could win a match in 3 seconds by throwing them. That's why I was asking. When you throw somebody, like, so the people don't understand the principles of judo if they're not familiar with it. Like, would you have to get them off balance, and this way you could load them up and toss them without using so much brute force? Like, what would the technique involve to pick somebody up,
Well,
to throw them?
any technique in any of the, whether it's groundwork or standing, the throwing involves timing, strength, the technical part of it, learning it properly, position, coordination. That's why judo is so fantastic. I know I'm going sideways here, but judo is such a fantastic life skill, kind of like swimming. You once you learn, you don't learn everything about judo, but if you do, like you guys, like how many years of judo do you guys have?
I'm like 35.
Oh, that's a lot.
Right, 10, 15, something?
So, but in my opinion, every kid should do maybe at least 5 years of our sport to get a good gist of how to fall.
Yeah.
And then all those things that I was just talking about, because it's so good for you, for your existence in your life, including other sports. Judo is a good base. Same thing with swimming. Swimming is a great base for your existence. Plus, you got to learn how to swim or you're going to drown, right? So it's a life skill.
So I think based on what you just say, it is a life skill that we can all pick up something from judo. And it seems like one of the main principles from judo is sort of learn how to execute an off balance.
What's that thing? The smaller man can move the bigger man by using his weight against him.
Right. Basically take their energy away from them and break their balance, and then you could control.
There's a Japanese proverb that says this, and I always get it wrong.
Oh, the efficiency principle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's totally judo. And
Right.
that's why it's so fantastic, because you learn yourself, where to move, how to move, and against another person.
Right.
I mean, I always say the hardest thing to do in sports, even though a lot of people say it's hitting a baseball. I completely disagree with that. It's trying to throw someone that doesn't want to get thrown.
That's right. Yeah.
And then turning your back and trying to do a technique like again, we're going further, like an Uchi Mata, Seiryoku-Zenyo, Harai. Turning your back and trying to throw someone is the most difficult thing to do in sports. And it's certainly one of the most difficult things to teach. The mechanics of it is very detailed and convoluted.
Yeah, yeah. It takes a lot of practice. It takes, especially practicing on people who don't want to get thrown.
Well, that's the live aspect, but you got to learn the technique first,
Right.
and you have to be consistent to, like we were talking about earlier, consistency of being in your dojo, practicing that stuff all the time, and then you get to do it in a live situation in randori, and then if you want to, you have an opportunity to go compete.
How did you become like from a small town YMCA to become, and then move on to like a national, international competitor?
So for me personally, I was always a competitor
Okay.
in everything I did. I mean, I was very competitive.
Uh-huh.
I guess my coach at the time, when I was 8 years old, we went to tournaments
Okay.
already. So, and I didn't have one watershed moment where I wanted to be a pro. It was an organic, natural progression for me. Just going to tournaments, winning my first trophy, going to another one, and next thing you know, I'm on the Olympic team. I mean,
Wow.
it was. I mean, it didn't happen like that. I mean, you know, I was 8 years old when I started, and I made my first Olympic team at 21. But it was organic. You know, learning the tour, learning what the next steps were. It was natural progression for me. It wasn't one like moment that, like, I didn't watch the '80 Olympic team and the hockey team and go, oh, I want to be an Olympian. I didn't even know what that really meant or was. And most kids don't understand what that is when they're young. So it was just a natural progression for me. And it just kept going and kept going and kept going. And next thing you know, I was, wow, this is my business. I'm a pro now.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and that's what I was, my point was, like, in tennis or in football, you turn pro. For me, it just was, I just kept going. You know, I didn't win everything, but you start winning and you start progressing, and this tournament leads to this. And the next thing you know, I was competing in the Olympics.
Judo is such a technically complex martial art. When you're training for tournaments, Would you just training on your favorite techniques, like the tournament techniques, or you train like just in the general art and see what arose organically in the match if you had an opportunity to pull off a throw?
Well, yes, to all of it, what you just said. So you often train your specifics, what you're good at, but you got to learn that first to be good at that. And then as you get, it's just like a football game. Do you follow football? Okay, there you go. So there's a game plan.
I'm a Jets fan, so they don't have a game plan.
Well, they do, but it doesn't always work, right?
No.
So there's certain guys that you're going to compete against, whether they're right, they're left, they have certain things that they do well, and you have things that you do well, and you have to fit that to a certain player. So if you're going to a tournament, let's say you want the French Open, you want to do well at the French Open. Well, you know most of the competitors that are going to be there, right, from all the countries, because they send their top guys. So you game plan for each, or you better be, I mean, that's what my students do. I mean, you better be planning for every person because you don't know which one you're going to draw. You better be ready for all those guys. So you have to practice and train what you do well, and then you have to fit in what can and cannot work against a certain person. And then you have to be aware of, that's why it's so hard, of what they do well. And so you don't get bombed not paying attention to that.
Yeah, it's like a chess match because they're
it absolutely is chess.
They're watching films of you and they know what your best techniques are and they're thinking of ways to get around those things.
Yep, it's absolutely a chess match. Good analogy.
So I think based on what you just say, it's not just training hard. It's like you have to train smart. You have to study yourself and you have to study others. But I think what the motivation behind that is what you said earlier, you're competitive. And how did you develop that competition mindset?
That's a great question. I have no idea. Even in when I used to play my grandpa in pitching pennies, I mean, I would go mental when I would lose. So I was a very competitive kid.
You have to win.
Always had to win, no matter what it is. I'm still that way today.
But here's the weird, ironic part, right? To be competitive means you always want to win. But there's no one can always win, and you're gonna fall.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you deal with that mentally when you fail?
Failure is part of success. I mean, any successful businessman or professional athlete will tell you that if you got to fail to improve. So for me, again, I'm a pretty even keel competitor. So, I mean, of course, I'm upset that I lost, but I'm an analytical guy in my head. I never got too high when I won, and I never got too low when I lost. And that's, in my opinion, is the key to, that's how I coach as well, is try to keep the kids from getting too excited or too, they go really low in their mental state. And I'm always having to talk them off the ledge. But me, it wasn't like that. There was a few moments of those really lows, but it didn't bother me to the degree that I couldn't go, okay, let's watch the tape, see what we have to improve, what can I add. So it wasn't.
Were you able to detach your ego from your performance if it didn't go as well as you?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, of course, my ego was crushed, especially once I got to be Jason Morris. The wins were plenty and the losses were getting smaller. So when a loss did happen, it's a much bigger deal, right? Like, do you guys follow tennis by any chance?
A little bit.
Okay, so if Djokovic loses, it's a big deal.
Right.
Right? The guy's won so much. I mean, you create and set your own standard. Terry and I are huge, my wife Terry, we're huge tennis fans and we're Roger Federer people. So if he lost, not to us, but in general, it's big news.
Right.
Right. It doesn't necessarily say in the releases, whoever beat him, somebody beats Federer. It says Federer loses.
Right.
Kind of thing. Like Djokovic just lost in the semis of the Australian Open. Big deal. Huge deal. But obviously it's not a big deal. The guy's insanely good and has had an amazing career. But the loss, so for him, that's crushing. So for me, same thing. I mean, as you continually get better and better and better, the losses are few and far between. And so when they do happen, it can mess with you.
Yeah.
So you have to negotiate that emotion.
Right. Any memorable losses?
I mean, yeah, there's lots. probably the '89 Worlds for me was I was at the top of my game. For sure, I was the top 3. And I thought that was my Worlds to win, and I lost in the quarters, and then I lost for the bronze. And that was a very low point. I lost a lot of confidence from that one. That was a low point for me. And the way it happened, I didn't think it was completely me.
Mm-hmm.
Little referee situation going on there. But that's part of it. That's part of the
part of the game.
It's part of the game. So, but that one definitely sticks out. The '89 World Championships.
Right.
But you were able to get up off the mat from that and come back?
Oh, well, I continued to 2000, right? So yeah, but it took me a while. I mean, I still competed, but that took a chunk of. I had never been more confident, and that's another part of sports. So you have guys that are all pros, and they're all almost the same level, but the mental part of it,
Mm-hmm.
confidence, the knowledge that of this and that will bring me up. I mean, Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal are stronger than the field
Mm-hmm.
mentally. And so that's where they win a ton of their matches. And same thing for us, right? So that I was at the top of my confidence. I was never more confident. I was sure I was going to win the Worlds that year, sure. And as I was winning my matches, when I lost, that definitely took a chunk, and it took a while for me to get that back.
Did it get you extra motivation to train for the next tournaments?
I was always motivated to train. I always, because if I was sick or my body hurt and I had to take a day off, I was always freaking out that my opponents, and my career went long, so my rivals changed, but I was worried that rival was getting better. Mm-hmm. So for example, if it's Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, and Tom's got to be, off the shelf for a little while, he's like, man, Peyton's getting better. And that's a motivation in itself.
I understand you trained with a lot of your rivals. What was your relation in general with the people that you had to compete with at the highest levels?
So interesting, good question. I am friends during, not before because I didn't know them, but mostly during my career, I was friendly with most of my competitors. Judo is so neat that way. One specific guy is a guy named Dave Faulkner. I don't know if you remember him. This guy was beating me early on when I was a teenager, and I went to where he trained and trained with him.
Okay.
I want to get my hands on him. But that's judo, right? That's, you need partners. You need each other to train. And he got his hands on me, so it's like who's the better man? Let's see who figures it out. But yeah, I trained with him, not specifically like forever, but 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. And he happened to be in Colorado Springs at the time, so I trained with him, and we were friends while it was going, which was kind of peculiar.
Interesting.
Very interesting. And we're great friends now, all these years later.
That's great.
Yeah, because you say that you're very competitive, and sometimes I think of a competition means I'm going to see you as like a nemesis kind of competition.
So my mentality, that's another interesting aspect. For me, I didn't need to create those things in my head where I hate you or I can't talk to you. I'm a more relaxed guy. And again, I'm analytical, but I'm relaxed. So I don't need to be getting into some zone before, like, I'm going to break the the karate guys got to get before they break the bricks.
Right.
I don't need that. I have a funny story.
Sure.
It's a wrestling story. So this is in high school, and one of my teammates, who was at the time, he was a 2-time state champion. He was about to be a 3-time. So he was the big time. He was really good, and I was just fooling around with the wrestling. I was a clown, right? I'd come in, but I was winning because of the judo. And he was a senior and I was a sophomore, I think. And so before the matches, he would always get into the zone. He's got to get. And I was completely oblivious of his zone. He's getting ready for the match, and I'm just talking to him. Hey, John. And he was a very polite guy. But he turns to me and goes, Jason, listen, I'm getting ready. Could you please shut the F up? I'm like, oh, I didn't know. Sorry, John. His name is John Carty, a great guy. Actually, John is the CEO of C.A.F.E.
Oh,
Wow.
You guys heard of that, right?
Yeah.
How's that sound? C.A.F.E?
C.A.F.E repairs.
Favorite place, yeah. Anyways, wonderful story. I don't think he even remembers it when I say it to him, but I never forget that because that's who I am. I'm just, that's the way I process competing and staying loose, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry, I don't know where we were going, but that's a funny story.
I think that's a great point because I think it sounds like one of the way to help you deal with the competition is that you're able to be very competitive, yet at the same time relax with it, right? Like you said, you try to teach your kids not to be too overwhelmed, not to be too hyper. So it's that ability to maintain that competition and relaxation is something that helps along the
Totally. I mean, it helped me, but it was an organic thing. That's how I dealt with stress. Mm-hmm. Comedy,
comedy.
Just being light. I mean, light. I'm a Jerry Seinfeld fan, right? I like comedy. I like sitcoms. I'm not huge into CSI or something. Something that's serious. I'm very light, and that's the way I treated. That's the way I am, and I think that really helped me keep going this whole time.
Yeah,
there was a funny episode. Remember when Kramer took karate?
Of course, when he beat up the kids.
That was hilarious.
And he told Jerry that yeah, I'm taking karate. It's great. And they started taking advice from Jerry. And then they saw it was Jerry and Elaine saw that you're beating up kids. That's a great episode. Too bad it wasn't judo.
Yeah, I know, that would have been great.
So you're the Seinfeld of the judo field.
I mean, people used to think until I got heavier, people used to think we looked alike.
You do have that persona with you. Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
So when you go into a competition, you would just relax and chill. You didn't feel any external pressure. You weren't.
Oh, I absolutely feel pressure, and I'm nervous. I mean, if you don't feel pressure and you're not nervous, you're not alive.
Right.
All pro athlete. Well, I mean, it's not even pro athletes. Anybody at a high level of their thing that has to do a thing. Even this webcast. I mean, this is not. I'm sure you were nervous to come in here and meet me and
sure.
I mean, so it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's the people that are able to deal with that stress are successful.
Yeah. Luckily, this is not my job, so I can be a little bit relaxed. But it was my job.
But you might
not be doing well.
But that's the point, right? If you're a pro, I mean, but you are a pro professor,
right?
Right, and I'm sure I'm sure there's nerves and there's stress, and you have to negotiate that within your head, because if you're not in a good headspace, your students suffer.
That's correct. So I guess, as an Olympian, you slowly transition from a player to coach.
So again, interesting and organic for me was that I was kind of a coach player because of my technical abilities and my innovation. I don't know. Do you know who Steve Cohen is? You ever hear that name? Are you in judo?
Yeah, still teaching, but I don't remember his name. Sorry.
Anyways,
I'm excused.
Steve is a mentor of mine and a fantastic player in his own right. He was my Olympic coach in 2000. He was impressed or liked the fact of all the innovation that I came up with during our playing days. So a lot of the guys would tap. We talk a lot about strategies and grips and positions. So I was kind of a coach player during my whole time, because I was always helping and myself too, because I was trying to figure out, but I was a very technical guy. So I was very analytical and technical, figuring that stuff out. So the coaching thing just kind of happened. The business part, that's different.
Yeah.
But the fact that I became a coach, I was already coaching in general myself and then my teammates. So that was just organic that transition to that. The creating this thing, the business thing, that's completely another set of
really story.
yeah, it's another story.
Is there a difference between coaching your own athletes at your dojo and when you coach in the Olympics, where they're not necessarily your students?
Oh, totally. I mean, in general, the Olympic thing is a babysitting gig. I mean, because you don't get to train if they're not your players, you don't train them, and so they're not. And then you didn't train them. You don't. You didn't have a huge hand in them developing. So there's a much different relationship. You should basically want to make sure they're comfortable. You get them water. I mean, you technically help them as you can, but it's not as deep as if they were your players.
So it's very different than
Very different.
Very different. Okay.
For the Olympic thing.
Okay.
But other than that, I mean, most of the times if I travel, it's with my team, my players.
What are some of the key things that you want your student to remember when you're teaching them? I mean, that's a vague question.
Number one, I want them all to be good people, right? All the judo things that come along with our sport is respect. And Michael, remember this, the big word around here is others.
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 Good.
That's what I teach. And it's more than judo. It's just being a human, and others matter. It's not about me, right? A lot of kids have that mentality. And it's not different. It's not different today than it was back in the day. I mean, they're learning about others. You need partners. You need to respect everybody that's on the mat, plus everybody that's in this room. No one's above another person. I don't care if you can win. That doesn't make you better than the other person. In fact, your company is only as strong as your weakest link, right?
Right.
Exactly.
So you're always trying to bring that up. The ones that are functioning, they don't need as much attention, and they better pay attention down here. So my big thing, and Michael Hall will attest to that, is others.
Well, judo's a collaborative sport. Unlike a lot of other martial arts, you need other people to work with, and you need to treat them with respect and dignity.
So I'll disagree with you a bit. Everything is like that. Every sport is like that. You need a team. It's all about others. Even though it appears that
Taekwondoists think you're just doing katas and whatever.
But you still need it. You have parents, you have coaches, you have sponsors, you have the other people in the dojo. You just have others.
That's true.
That's true.
You're not me. It's not that ever. It's others. That's the big thing with me is that. And then we work, there's a million other things after that. But learning that, because listen, kids grow up, their mommies rub them and pet them, and they're the whole world. And a lot of times they don't understand or learn that it's not all about you, right? I'm an only child, so figure that one out, right? So I learned it myself, and that's a big deal here. And that's how that's how we can improve. Once you really understand that and you're not completely me orientated, then you can improve.
But what you say but your philosophy about others is no different than the founder of judo. He talked about the mutual benefit of
benefit and welfare.
Jita-Kyoei.
That's like the key principle of judo.
Absolutely. But I would say that's a key principle in life.
Right.
Kano had it pegged for existing. He just happened to have this awesome art to tag it to.
Right.
That all the philosophies are for our life, in my opinion.
Sure.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's so important. I'm so glad to hear that you want the kids to walk out of the dojo better people, and you extend the lessons into their real life.
That's it. They don't care if you're a champion. If you're an a-hole, no one's going to care about you.
Right.
People love Roger Federer. I love Roger Federer. I don't know him personally. I met him once, but for a very, very short period of time. His persona exudes that. So people love him, right?
Let's say some of our audience have kids, they want to pick a sport. Do you recommend
judo?
They pick Do you recommend they just do judo or do all sorts of sports?
No, do all sorts. Well, judo and swimming are two staples for life skill development, because you learn how to fall, and then all the nice things that we've been talking about that you learn in judo with the discipline and the others thing. Swimming is self-explanatory. Got to learn how to swim so you don't drown, right? You don't have to be a champion in either, but absolutely encourage. I'm a sports fanatic.
Okay.
I can and did everything. I can't do as much as I did before, but I love all sports. I mean, as you can see, I keep talking about tennis. I'm a tennis player. I play pickleball now. I play football, basketball. I played all kinds of stuff. So that's an interesting segue into cross training. So I didn't just do judo. I hated running. So instead of running, you could easily get your fitness and your coordination and all kinds of things done doing other sports. So if I could avoid a run and I could find a partner, it was basketball, football, soccer, tennis, ping pong, even anything but running. I just hated it. It hurts the body, and my body's not exactly put together that great. So anything but that. Even when we were warming up on the road, I remember me and a lot of teammates, including Swain, we play football on the mats to warm up, or play soccer, or, we do other things other than just doing the regular warm up, which included running.
It's more fun that way.
And it's more fun. You do a thing and you're a little competitive. Next thing you know, a half hour's gone and you're sweating, right? And that's the goal.
Yeah, I hated running. I can never run on a treadmill because all I do is step off. I'm back in my house. But if I'm running, if I go a mile, now I still have to run a mile back home.
Of course.
So you just go far away.
Yeah,
you go back.
Right. Oh, and one other thing about running is that I can see, you're probably like me. I mean, running, you're inside your own head for all that time. I mean, I drive myself crazy. I hate that, right? Being inside, there's no one around, and you're thinking about all the stuff you got to do, or all the things you got to train. I mean, all the, like, what? It's nuts. I hate it. So if you're out for a run for an hour and then you're stretching, you're in your own head. Right. If you're playing basketball, there's none of that.
Peter plays basketball.
He told me. That's why I said. That's why I added that. But if you're playing, right, you're engaging. You're not driving yourself crazy.
Yeah, you're in the moment. Yeah. When I'm running, the only thing I'm thinking of is when can I stop?
When can I stop? Or all the stuff that you got to do.
You go through.
Right. Oh, I got to. I mean, I don't care what age you are. You have your age appropriate anxieties of stuff you got to do, or if in my case, the training, it's like, all right, I got to get this done. I got to lift later. I got to do this judo. I got to work on my Uchi Mata, stuff like that.
Yeah. What is your vision for judo in the United States?
Well, it's pretty specific for me. I created what I created here, and I do the best I can to create, good people. But I still have a passion for creating champions. But, judo's small, and I don't necessarily have LeBron James walking through the door. So, like I told you, I have 5 kids in France. 2 of them won a match, which is a big deal. And my vision is to get as good as we can for the kids that I have. And again, this is just my vision here, because I'm a one-man band. Me and my wife run the show. I have ambition for it, but I don't have a ton of time to make judo popular around the whole world, because you don't get paid for that, right? So I can only control what I can control, and I develop it here, and I promote it here, and I promote these kids from here.
You have a great name and a great brand, and individually you're very highly successful. I think more so than just about any other American ever that competed in the world stage. How do you attract elite athletes to train under you, and what would they get if they entered your program? So,
very interesting question. It's not like gymnastics or tennis or judo is so small that a lot of dads coach their kids. So there's no tracking. People find me if they want to get good, and some don't, right? They stick with their dad or their local coach. Judo is like, it's like some sort of weird loyalty, even though in real sports, you go from high school to college to the pros. right?
Right,
There's a graduation process. A lot of times in judo, you stay in your club forever, and you reap the benefits of that, whether it's not being a world competitor or so. I don't recruit. And although it's not a bad thing, in judo, in some circles, recruiting is seen as a like poaching students type of thing, which it should work just like the colleges. It should work cohesive with senseis. And not all people that are in my position do it the right way either. So I'll give the benefit of the doubt to the more recreational dojos. But the recreational dojos, in my opinion, it's their job to foster those kids to move to the next levels. Often that is a struggle for egos and I understand that, hey, maybe I want this kid that I've developed all these years to help teach, right? But since I'm a competitor and since that's my focus, you should be able to allow that kid to reach his potential. He might want to teach, but they need to hand off the kids and push more often than not. And so to your question is, I don't get that very often. I've created some more Jason Morris Judo Center affiliates that want to be part of that they call themselves JMJC Scranton, JMJC Beaufort in South Carolina. So they already are in that process. So I'm involved in the quality control, and then they're going to send their students to me at some point. But we work together, and that's what you're supposed to do, right? I'm not poaching, and they don't feel like that they're losing a student; they're gaining it. I mean, what if a kid from their club goes to the Olympics one day?
Right.
How great would that be?
Of course.
It's not going to happen the other way. I don't know why they think it can. It can't. You can't go from your YMCA to the Olympics. It doesn't happen. You go from, and then if you do make it, you're appreciative of all the people that were connected to you the whole time, because that first person is the most important person in. I don't care if it's judo. I don't care what it is.
Right.
They got you into it.
Right.
And they fostered your development to the next stage. That person is the most important, or else we don't get that student.
Right.
So I'm just, basically a finisher, right? I mean, I have local people that I've developed as well. I wish there was more of the local, right? But the kids that come here, I work with their coaches, and they're always connected to the original person, or else they'd never exist. So that was a very interesting question, but there's none of that for us because of the nature of our smallness, and everybody knows everybody. In fact, if I communicate with a kid, it's through the coach. I'll always call the coach. Hey, this has never happened like that. They usually come to a camp because they're curious, and they'll ask questions, and I'll communicate with the coach and say, okay, this is what we offer. This is what we do. And absolutely, you're welcome to. And then you're involved. If you're involved as much as you want to be involved as the original sensei or the original coach.
Right. But it sounds like the grassroots judo schools are quite important for the future of judo in the United States.
Tons. In fact, you're involved with the JA.
Right.
The JF, all the organizations are hugely important, but creating clubs is where it's at. Who cares about the elite thing? That'll run itself. Kids that like myself that want to be good will get good. There needs to be more clubs, period.
Right.
I don't know. I don't have an answer on how Jason Morris will start this club. I mean, I've been, not really supported by any of the organizations. And what I mean by that is like, they just exist and I exist. I started this thing because I have a passion for it. The organizations, in my opinion, need to foster that, getting people to start clubs or be involved with clubs, because so right now, right in this area, there's Taekwondo places up and down this on Route 50. You pass them. There's BJJ places. There's one judo school. That kills us.
That's right.
That kills us.
Yeah.
One. There's one. So when the parents are taking Johnny and Sally to a thing, there's one. Okay, there's this thing. They don't know the difference, and there's 10 Taekwondo schools. Where do you think they're going to go? So that's organizations, USA Judo, USJA, and USJF's problem. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's not the problem. There's many problems,
Right.
but in my opinion, the conversations should always be toward how do we get more people in. So we have our clubs currently. How do we get more in those? And then how do we create more clubs? Because, okay, so I have tons of I'm older now, so I have tons of kids that have gone on in their lives. So if I have a kid that's in Tennessee, I call up the coach, hey, I got a student, I want him in that club. There's no judo in Tennessee. So where do they go? Jiu-jitsu or some other thing, or they just completely die out, right?
Yeah.
That is crushing. I support that. I mean, you know that. Every kid that I have out there, I want them doing judo. Even if they were a yellow belt here and they move somewhere, I'm calling whoever, because I know everybody. Only because judo is so small, right?
Right.
And everybody knows me. So if they get a call from me, they're going to be good to a student. Plus, they gain a student. I have one of my RPI kids is going to Leo Lopez's club right now, and so she lives in Terrytown for an internship. I guess it's close. And she's just a yellow belt, wonderful girl. She started judo with me, and I've only had her for 6 months. And she's doing judo now at Leo, so I support that. She's not trying to be an Olympian,
Right.
but she's in a club, thank goodness, that's close to her. And I fostered that. I mean, I made that happen. In my opinion, that's what all of us should be doing constantly, but that does not happen. And USA Judo should be the lead of that. In all the organizations is the lead of that. How do we create people getting into the clubs and making sure that people are doing judo?
Right. I mean, we do want more kids. So as we're running out of time, I'm going to ask you sort of one last question. So what would be one take-home message for our audience, as well as what would be number one reason for parents to send their kids to judo?
I think I touched on it, but judo is a life skill. It's not to become an Olympic champion. You learn all kinds of qualities that you need to be part of your life. And one of the things is the others thing, right? That's a big thing in judo anyways. That's not just my philosophy. I learned how to be who I am through judo. And I love it. I love it. So there's that part of it. Plus the physical part is, in my opinion, judo sets you up for your existence in life, because it teaches you so much coordination, awareness of body space and where others, learning how to deal with others.
Right.
And you actually have to touch them, right? So you have to deal with others. It's a fantastic, especially for like autistic kids,
Right.
Who this judo is so phenomenal for so many walks of life. Aggressive kids that need to let off steam. Well, better place than judo, and then have a great sensei. Which most of if you go across our country, most of the senseis are fantastic. Right? Judo is a passion for us senseis, and you're a sensei now, right?
Yes.
There you go. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. It teaches you about life. It teaches you, gives you valuable life lessons. It's not just sport. It's a philosophy, and it's a way. It's a do.
It's a way. 100%.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sensei. It was a great pleasure having a conversation with you, and I hope our audience can also learn something about what judo is and what judo can do for your kids. So every month, third Friday, 7 p.m., stay tuned.